Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Kirby. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good, besides the fact that
Happy
I'm cold.
2026. Yeah.
Happy 2026.
All right. So, a whole new year, and we're going to kick it off talking about identity.
Identity theft.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. So, okay. So, we want to really talk about some statistics, what to do, how to figure out if your identity is in danger of being stolen, preventative measures, things like that. So I think the first thing we'll do is we will share our screen and we'll talk about some of the statistics. And first, we're going to jump back to 2024. Sarah.
Yes. So in 2024, every 22 seconds, somebody in the United States had their identity stolen. Um, the two countries that had the highest amount of identity theft was India and the United States. 87% of individuals unknowingly provided personal information that could be used for identity theft. Some of that could be like from those online quizzes that people take, like on Facebook and things like that. Um, what kind of Winnie the Pooh character would you be? And then by 2026, there was a projection that state credit card fraud would be valued at over $43 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, yeah, and not all credit card fraud is identity theft, but there's enough that. Mhm. Sarah, have you ever had your identity stolen?
I did, and the one time it happened, I did what you were not supposed to do. I was
Uh-oh.
in Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
and I decided
Georgia the state or Georgia the country?
Georgia the state,
Okay.
and I actually reverse engineered it down to the identity thief, called her at her house, and told her to cut it out. And that probably was not the
Yeah, you were
smartest thing.
not supposed to do that.
I'm not supposed to do that. That was like, this was like many, many years ago, and I
Tempting.
wasn't supposed to do that. And the reason you shouldn't do that is because then you can't really get them arrested because you're tipping them off that you know that they're committing a crime.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah.
You don't want to mess with the evidence and that sort of stuff. You can
Right.
look as long as you're safe about that and just hand the stuff over to the police or whatever. But I would never. I think there's other reasons for not making contact with them. They may be dangerous.
Right. That's the other thing is they could be dangerous. I mean, in her instance, I had actually looked up her background and who she was and stuff like that, and it says that she wasn't physically dangerous,
She
but
didn't seem physically dangerous, but
it
let's put.
seemed physically dangerous, and it was, so it wasn't the smartest thing for me to do. And then also, that was again, this was many years ago, and it was not the best
We
operational.
all get wiser as we go. Like we were all idiots on the internet 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Exactly, exactly. And it was an anger reaction. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I'm.
So the best thing to do, though, as you said, is once you get all that information together, if you have it, is to package it up and give it to law enforcement so they can act on it and not interfere, so that they have time to skip town.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't tip them off and let them hide their tracks or try to hide their tracks. Um, yeah, I have had somebody try to file taxes as well.
Oh, wow.
So if you hear a ruckus in the background,
Yes, I'm sorry. That's my dog. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So he's making his bed.
he is
I just want to
making
make
his
sure we
bed.
address that.
Yeah,
Sweet,
and
sweet
and if
boy.
and if I didn't let him into the office with me, he would be actually scratching on the door,
Oh, okay, I thought you were going to tell me he'd be howling because
or
he does
he would
howl.
howl. That's
Hmm.
another one. Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. All right, let's talk about another set of statistics that
yes.
you have for us here. Data breach statistics. Okay, so data breaches is often, I mean, it's not just somebody finding your stuff online. The data breaches is a way for people to get the information to steal your identity.
Yeah. So this one actually, one of the big things that I got from this resource was that in 2025, 1 in 6 data breaches was AI driven, and when we're looking at how we're just at the beginning of the, this huge growth in AI usage, I think that that is going to increase. I mean, it seems reasonable that there would be more AI-driven fraud and AI-driven breaches that will occur.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
So, all right. Just going through. I think that this is also the one. No, this is the next one is the next.
Yeah.
Yeah, the next article talks about. I thought was a kind of an eye-opening stat.
30%.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's the
30%.
stat.
So in 2025, 30% of people in the United States had somebody take their identity. So
Yeah, and so here's the thing: is like Sarah and I have both had this touch us, but this wasn't all in just the last year, right?
right,
So if you think about it, you know, if you give a group of 5 people, one or two of them may have reported having their identity stolen last year, not just
right,
had it stolen,
right,
not just had it stolen in their lifetime, but last year specifically. And so
right,
I feel like that's it's definitely eye opening. And then it says nearly a third of Americans have experienced. Well, a third would be 33%, right? So maybe almost a third experienced it just last year, you know?
right,
So
right.
yeah,
Well, and I think also when you look at in a way, there's more vulnerability for some for a lot of the American population because a lot of our data is just online and we don't have the same level of online protection for privacy as some other countries do.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's state by state right now. And I'm going to show a resource a little bit later to show you what your state laws are so you can go look that up, or at least breach information.
Yeah.
But there's different laws by each state as far as privacy goes, and we are woefully behind. So,
Yeah.
all right, so we got a video. We're going to watch a number of pieces of this video. So let's see. Sorry, I'm just kind of looking at the thing first. Okay, let me get this video up. All right, so this video by Hayden Schreier, and identity theft in 2025 is out of control, right? So we've got a bunch of different sections we're going to go to for this. So we'll watch the very first one.
There's a skimmer on here.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't even tell.
You gotta pay for that.
He's pulling a skimmer off of that.
Was this at a grocery store?
There, don't do that. Don't do that. Okay? Don't do that. Why? What happened?
This is the skimmer.
What?
See that? A skimmer.
How would you even get that on
See that?
at a grocery
You see here?
store?
It's not.
Okay, so if you're not familiar with what a skimmer is the kind of the device that they can stick onto like the grocery store stuff, or a lot of people think of them in the case of gas stations, where when you run your card, you not only do you run your card through the grocery store, but also through that skimmer, and then that skimmer, whoever owns that, comes by and gets it later, or comes close enough and Bluetooths the information out of it, and now they have your credit card information. I've had this happen to me at a restaurant, and there are skimmers that fit in the palm of your hand. So when the restaurant person takes your card and they walk back to run it, they could just run it and run it, right?
Right. Right.
So, I mean, I have had this happen to me, and it's the reason that I only use cash or American Express at restaurants now, because I want that higher protection from the American Express. What I had used that time was my debit card. I also learned not to use my debit card as if it was a credit card. And I no longer do that at all because that's tied to your bank account. If it's
Right.
from a credit card's got stronger protections. They're going to shut things down faster. They cleared out my checking account. Luckily, my savings account wasn't even connected to it. But if my bank wasn't nice to me, they may not have given me all of that money back.
Right, right. And skimmers can be in restaurants, gas stations, ATMs. Um, the one thing I would say though is also with this video is the one thing that he should not have done is pulled out like that in front of the people in the store. If somebody's in like a small store, um, there's a possibility it could be an inside job. And again, that goes back to like the example when I said I traced down the person who had stolen my identity in Georgia. You can actually endanger yourself that way. What if it's a cartel run store or a mafia run store or you could end up in fisticuffs. So I think if you do notice a skimmer, is to report that to law enforcement.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, even if, because what you're saying is like not even reported this to the store people, just like,
Well, in this particular instance, because and especially when they were saying don't do that,
Mhm.
they were saying don't do that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, pulling it off definitely messes with the evidence. But I mean,
Right.
even you're saying like, so what if it's an inside job? And well, if you report it to the people in the store, and now they go take it all down before the cops come or something. I don't know. That seems like a little bit far fetched because I don't think they need the skimmer in the store, but it could still be like an employee of the store, I guess.
Right.
Anyway, either way, report to law enforcement. Don't touch the thing if you notice one of those, and they can be very hard to notice. So chances are you won't even notice. Okay, so a lot of things are now tap as well. And then you have, for example, the tap to pay using your phone wallet, where they have rotating fake credit card numbers before they pass through. I think that's like one of the really good, technologies that we've kind of moved to.
Mhm.
All right, so the next section of the video, let's see, the Costco fraudulent shopping example. So let me go find that timestamp right there. All right, let's go ahead and watch the beginning of this one.
Visit aura.com/Hayden
We'll
Schreier
have
to
this
try
link
Aura
later.
free for 14 days and start protecting yourself today. Otherwise, let's get back to the video.
My credit card information got hacked for the first time in my entire life, and I'm going to tell you what happened. I know this happens pretty frequently.
It does.
Like, I hear people talking about how they had all these like fraud charges and they have to cancel their credit card and get a new credit card. Basically, my husband watches the credit card like a hawk. Any purchase I make, he's like, "Why did you spend $10 at Walmart for? What did you buy?" When he saw that there were $300 charges to Costco.com,
Yep.
he was about to have my head. So when he asked me if I bought anything on Costco.com for $300, I was like, first of all, no. Second of all, we don't even have a Costco membership. How am I going to be buying something off of Costco.com? So then we go into kind of panic mode because we're like, well, it wasn't me and it wasn't you, and we don't have a Costco membership. So obviously someone is spending a lot of money on our credit card. And then $300 turned into $400,
Oh my gosh.
$500, and we were almost at $1,000 of fraud charges on our credit card. We didn't have the best phone service where we were at. What are we supposed to do? Call the bank? Drove to a place with better cell service to be able to call the bank to get that credit card shut down, because somebody out there is just super, super happy and having the best day of their life, get all this free crap. I don't know what they bought. I feel
Okay, I have a question though on this one. Her husband's getting the notices that money's getting paid through Costco, but she doesn't have enough cell service to call the bank.
Mhm.
But I mean, those come through text possibly, and text messages are easier to get through than phone calls. So that could be the case there. Yeah, it is really important that you do, like for my credit cards, that I get text messages whenever a certain threshold is crossed. I spend.
Mhm.
What do you do, Sarah? Do you do the same thing?
Yeah, I get checked on my credit cards all the time because I travel a bit. So it's common that whenever I go someplace new, they'll make sure that it's me and not somebody else, someplace
Mhm.
else. Um,
Mhm.
but I think it's important to always check your charges on your credit card because some of them are one and done, like where they'll be like, okay, I'm going to use this credit card just buy this one thing, and then they'll use somebody else's to buy something else. So they could like do a fraudulent charge of like one pair of shoes, and then because they don't want to be noticed. The other thing is, I think when something like this happens, it doesn't hurt to try, is to call Costco and find out where this stuff is being shipped to, and see if they'll be nice enough to give that information to you.
Mhm.
It might take a little bit of ethical and truthful social engineering, but you can call them and say, hey, somebody has stolen my identity, they're using my card, and this is what how much the charge was for, and a lot of times I found that the business will give you the name of the person or their address or their phone number, or somebody tried to do it to my dad, actually, and so I was able to trace that down to the individual who's trying to scam my father. Uh, so a lot of times you can actually get that information, and then you can also pass that to the bank as well. And the banks usually have a investigation unit
Mhm.
that they will put on it in addition to giving it to law enforcement. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. We got another. Sarah has made a note on here that there's a lot of sections that are worth a watch on this, and I have a feeling that this is something this guy does. He's taking these TikTok, I think, or Instagrams videos and responding to them. So he might have a really good channel there. I might have to take a check on that. But let's go see what the next timestamp goes to.
14:30.
Yeah, I see it. 14:30, right there.
Oh, I'm
bank
sorry,
account,
my
and
dog's
then I
barking.
realized that I couldn't get a receipt by text. And I'm like, that's weird. I've had the same number for 17 years. I've had this bank account for like 10 years. So whatever. I'll check it out. I check my bank account online and I see that my phone number's not in there. It's two random phone numbers, local phone numbers, but not my phone number. Because like I said, I've had the same phone number for like almost 20 years. At this point, I freak out. I screenshot the phone numbers, I delete them, and I try to add my phone number, but it won't let me. So there's a security issue that I have to call to change my phone number.
Huh.
I said, okay. I call, and the lady, I tell the lady what's going on. She was like, oh, that's fine. Yeah, I'll put in the phone number. Can you give me, gave her the phone number. And once I gave her the phone number, I said, hey, and she was like, okay, well, everything's good. I was like, no. And everything's not good because someone got in my bank account and they changed information within that bank account. So how does this happen? And she was like, well, I don't know, sir. I don't see anyone accessing your account. I was like, well, find someone that can see. So she goes to tell me someone on.
I love saying that line to customer service representatives when they say that. Well, I don't know how to do that. Okay, well then transfer me to somebody that knows how to do that. It's that simple. They never like that answer, but it is the perfect line to give to customer service representatives, or when the conversation isn't going your way.
And called in to change the contact information in my banking account. And I was, how? And she was like, oh, well, I guess they must have had enough information to do it. I was like, well, they don't have access to my email. I check my email daily and where it's accessed at. And that was the only other way to verify it besides my phone number. So how does this happen?
I don't know.
She was like, well, I really can't tell you, sir. But then I go to try to make my account, and I get halfway through with all the new information, and then it freezes and it kicks me out. And I'm on the phone with the lady. She's trying to get me off the phone so I can talk to someone else. And I'm like, whoa. It kicked me out. It's not letting me go any further. And she was like, oh, that's weird. Well, oh, yeah, your account's been frozen because of suspicious activity. Suspicious activity? I'm on the phone with you. We're done. We're secure now. But my account's basically on lock for a little bit.
I like the expression where I got these guys on this video just now. Anyway, I do want to say that Hayden has these guys, the TikTok audio at a lower level. And so it might be a little bit harder to hear this guy really specifically. But anyway, go ahead, Sarah. How does this stuff happen?
Well, I mean, this happens a lot of times from breach data, but also it can happen from things, somebody just doing really good research on you. And social engineering. So somebody can do adversarial OSINT, and they can look up, your background, like what's your favorite food, what's your favorite color, what street did your dad grow on, grow up on, things that would typically be answers to security questions. So, I mean, if somebody wants to do a targeted spearfish of somebody's bank account, they could do that, and then what they'll do is they'll start to change the data to hijack the account to where all the information goes to them versus the person who owns it.
And they might put the stronger security things on, like, for example, the multi-factor authentication, which is, having it call you or having to use a code for it, that sort of thing.
Right. And then you not only have somebody steal your account, but they've and your identity, but they now have control over something that you no longer have access to.
Right.
Yeah.
So if your identity is stolen, how do you freeze your credit?
You call the three main credit.
In the United States, you call the three, yeah.
Yeah, in the United States, you call the three main credit services, which is Experian, and then the other two, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but
We'll have Equifax and TransUnion. We'll have them in the show notes.
And the other thing is, call your banks, call your credit cards, and have everything frozen.
And call the police.
And call the police. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. So now, again, you mentioned that breaches are sometimes how this happens. And how do you know if you've been in a breach? So we have a way that we can find out, at least if our email's in a breach. I think this one does phone numbers as well. Actually, it does. So let me share my screen again. And this is, have I been pwned? Pwned meaning owned or scammed or got or whatever. But anyway, you put an email address in here and you're going to find all of the different places where that email address has possibly been breached. I'm just going to throw in something like example at Gmail. I don't know if that really is one. I'm just going to try and just throw something in there. 299 data breaches. Okay, people have used this one. So it'll tell you, all right, so November 2025, Operation Endgame 3.0, that's where they lost that one was involved in a breach there. And my Vidster in October 2025 was breached and they were compromised there. I think that whoever did this account, I think they just signed up for everything with this email so they could find the breaches themselves, which might be, these guys are another breach reporter. Anyway, we got Prosper. So it's showing you all the places where you're breached. Now, here's the thing is, you're going to find yourself breached in some of these places, right?
Right.
Let me see if, okay, so like Vietnam Airlines. So if you flew on Vietnam Airlines and you got breached and you find it here, hopefully Vietnam Airline already notified you. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But if they didn't and you find yourself here, what do you do? Because, I mean, you look at this. Dates of birth, email addresses, loyalty program, names and phone numbers. Dates of birth, email addresses, that kind of stuff is often your security stuff, but also lets people apply as you for something, right? So what do you do, Sarah? What can you do?
For once you've been
this one, like I see this there, what do I do about it?
Well, so there's a few things of over two. First is you need to know where your vulnerability is, but change all your passwords on everything. Change passwords on everything. Make sure you
Well, I
have
think it depends on your password hygiene. You don't have to change it on everything if your password hygiene is already good.
Yeah.
Vietnam Airlines got, okay, let me go into this, like explain this, especially if anybody's watching and is not really sure how this kind of works. You see this on Have Been Pwned, you used Vietnam Airlines and they were breached in October 2025. They were hacked. You weren't hacked. Nobody hijacked you through that. They lost their data. So
that's okay. Gotcha.
Is out there. And well, hold on, let me finish. So what they know about you is out there, and what you, again, it hasn't touched you yet. Somebody may take that data and do identity theft against you, or they may take that data, especially if there's passwords or something like that, and log into some of your content. So what do you do with these guys?
Well, you would, first of all, you should monitor, keep monitoring your data to see if anything else happens. Second is the part of the stuff that is breached, see if you can harden it. whether it's, maybe you want to do a new email account, maybe you want to close down the old email account. There's, which I have done. There is one thing though that is hard to fix, and that is when your social security number is leaked. And that happened last year and the year before. There was, and one of them was a data broker based out of Florida, and they breached millions of US citizens' social security numbers. And unfortunately, you can't contact the Social Security department.
You can. It's just a big process.
Hold on, and ask for new SSN.
Okay.
So you can't get a new SSN. You can call them and say, my number has been compromised, but they're not going to give you a new SSN. So then
I have
that
a good thing too, though. I think it takes a lot, but I think you can get a different number for identity purposes if it's really bad enough. We'll have to find that out later.
If it's just a breach though, and it hasn't actually been used for more than just the breach.
Oh yeah, definitely it hasn't been used yet. Definitely. Well,
right,
I mean, let me give an example. 2015 Veterans Affairs was breached. Social Security numbers. My data's out there. I don't know that was ever used. My Social Security.
Well, you can go on the dark web, and there's a whole bunch of, I mean, it's a place where lots of
I would necessarily know, because sometimes like people just use that to like get their Uber account or whatever. They have to have a Social Security number for that. I don't know how much Uber checks, but I guess eventually it would still come back if somebody was using yours. You might have to check your own credit report. But right. The thing here though is when something's on this page, yes, a lot of times passwords are what's lost. And a lot of times that's the main thing you're going to end up doing, right? Is changing your password. Again, when something's breached here, I'm going to find another like normal website and not just some of these things.
And I just wanted to highlight, even if you have good password hygiene but your password is breached by a third party, you still need to change your password. This
password.
Right. And if you think that the email account is, if you think that the email account is not secure anymore and it's a throwaway email account, get rid of it. I don't have one email account. I have multiple email accounts. I think it's.
Yeah, Sarah, I think that's a harder thing to deal with though. A lot of people like they don't want to give up their main email account. And so one of the things that you can do with that is a lot of email services will allow you to have like little add-ons for when you sign up for things, or you have an account just to sign up for things.
But what I was going to say is Proton has email masking. And so you don't have. Okay, so you don't have to have multiple email accounts. You can actually mask the email account when you go out, and you don't have to give them your real email address.
Right. And now in this case, you probably did already lose your real email address. So like if you went and had the Advanced Auto Parts account, this is one that I personally had hacked or had breached as well in June 2024. So basically what I did is I signed into my account and I just changed my password, Advanced Auto Parts. I had ordered some stuff online. And because I have good password hygiene, that's all I needed to do. Now, let's talk about what good password hygiene is, though. We got one more thing to hit before we get to the good hygiene one. So I'm going to get one more link that we have up here, and that is.
I was just going to say, on more than one email account, the one thing I do recommend is for shopping is like you don't necessarily want to have one email account for all of your shopping and all of your banking. So, you can have a main or primary, or at least my opinion, you can have like a main or primary email account for some things, but there's other things that you want to have not linked to your primary email account. That you would want something, that's.
In a lot of cases, it's already too late. It's because this information just got breached. And even things that you want to link to your primary could get breached. And the thing about that is a lot of the email services do have pretty decent spam and scam filters, but they're not perfect. And so you do need to always be careful and be cognizant that anything coming to you could be fake.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things Kirby has in your classes that's also helpful is temporary accounts. So you don't
Oh, yeah.
ever have, and that helps stop it as well. So if you're going to go
My
someplace,
favorite temporary account is Mailinator.
Mhm.
I'll show you that one. So this is something, so say that, okay, if you sign up for our email list at the such and such place, we're going to give you a coupon. And you want the coupon, but you don't want the email. And so let's go, hold on a second, I got to whack this one. And bring in Mailinator. Okay, so Mailinator, you don't even have to think ahead of time. You're just walking into the store. Maybe you are walked into Tim Hortons, right? You're at Tim Hortons. They say, sign up for our email list and you're going to get a free coffee. And you're like, oh, I want my free coffee. So you sign up for the email list. You don't have to have already made up your Tim Hortons fake email address. You can say just off the top of your head, oh, yeah, it's Tim Horton at mailinator.com. And then you can bring up on your phone, go here, and then right up here, in the public Mailinator box, put in here Tim Horton or whatever you told him that it was, hit enter, and then it receives. It's receive only. And let's see if nobody's using the Tim Horton one right now, but you can see that there's an inbox there. And so people can send the email, you can receive the email, you can verify whatever social networks onto this. They're not going to let you verify with Mailinator, but you can get at least your coupons and that sort of thing from stores, and you don't have to sign up for all these things with your email, real email. And like I said, you could do this just right now. You could just say blah, blah, blah at mailinator.com. And if I send an email to blah, 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 you could go and check it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this, the county data set really quick because then we can go on to password hygiene.
Yep.
All right, Sarah. This one right now. This is Cochise County in Arizona. It's just a GIS record request. What do you have for this?
Okay, so when I was talking earlier about how somebody can social engineer and get your data to profile for identity theft, they don't necessarily have to have breach data because the United States gives a lot of people data free and openly, including county tax record and property websites. So this is an example of ArcGIS in Cochise County, and when you drill in on this map, it actually shows, their names, their addresses, their property tax IDs, and that can be compiled with other information online to build a robust profile on that person from an adversarial red teaming perspective. In Ohio, which is a different state, you can find out what political party somebody votes for. You can find out whether or not a lot of the counties will show whether or not somebody is behind on their taxes. There was even one county that showed checks that somebody would write to pay for their property tax. They'd show a copy of the actual payment. And so it would show the check would have the bank account number on it and the person's signature. I mean, that's like right there. That's from an adversarial perspective, that would be something that somebody could absolutely use for identity theft. They have the bank account, they have the person's signature. So being aware that your identity is already out there and it's already something that can be packaged and stolen, whether it's through ArcGIS through Cochise County or whether it's a little county in Ohio or in Pennsylvania. It's good to know what those vulnerabilities are. And then the other thing is to consider, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is Privacy Protect services and also identity theft insurance. Because everybody in the United States is vulnerable to it.
Everyone around the world is vulnerable, but we are particularly vulnerable in the US.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about password hygiene. Okay, so when we talk about password hygiene, we're just talking about best practices for using your passwords so that you can minimize damage when things get breached, because things are still going to get breached. You don't have control over what, Target as a store does. And if they get breached, you don't have control over that. So hygiene just means keep your password secure. I use 1Password, Sarah. I think you use 1Password as well, right?
I was using 1Password, but since I also have Nord and Proton and a couple of other things,
Okay.
I've
So now you're using
I switched over to one of them.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, 1Password is really good. Nord Password.
We're going to give you a selection of them that are good. But let's just talk about them from a holistic view right now. The idea behind these are that they are going to provide you with the 1Password. You get into the password manager and it generates, as well as I found the prices of it, but I didn't find an example for it. But there you go. It'll generate the password for you. It'll fill them in, all that stuff. So when you go to a page online where you have to fill in your password, you just click the 1Password. You can log into that one and it will fill it in for you. And it's, you don't have things. And they also, most of these companies that I'm going to show you a number of them, they also connect to the breach reporting, like having been pwned. So they will let you know if something's been breached and help you change that password right there.
Right.
So.
And absolutely. And the other thing I would just stress with this is, usually things that say that they're free are not free. And I don't suggest a Google password in the browser.
You're talking about
Chrome. Yeah, the Chrome password thing. I don't suggest that. It's not that it's horrible, but it's certainly not as good as 1Password or Nord or Proton or some of the other ones that you'd actually pay
mobile
for.
devices are pretty good right now for that too, though. So you can your Android or your Apple iPhone password one is also pretty good for that kind of stuff. All right, let's go through a couple of these different companies so we can kind of talk about, give all these links are going to be in the show notes. So if you don't want to do 1Password, we got a selection for you that, again, I'll go through them quickly. So we got NordPass. I like NordVPN a lot.
And I wanted to say one thing about 1Password I forgot to mention is the nice thing about 1Password is it's super easy to use because it just pops up with each window. You don't have to worry about futzing around and copying and pasting or anything like that.
And I think all of these will do that, right? Or, I mean, does Proton Pass just as easy?
Well, Proton Pass is a little bit slightly more complex, but that's because you have vaults.
Okay, but you can have vaults in 1Password. You can have different vaults.
Okay.
But that is putting more complexity into using it, though.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So let's this is Proton Pass, and then we have a discussion on the password book. Now I know a lot of people, they just don't have their passwords online at all. They have it in a notepad. They have it, in a little book that they keep, a little pocketbook or whatever. Not online, not in the password manager, just whatever right here. And in the past, people were like, don't do that because then somebody can get hold of that book and they have all your passwords. But, and I think, Sarah, you're probably going to agree with me here, that's more secure than using the same password across everything else.
Right.
And the reason you don't use the same password, well, let me mention this, and then I'm going to give you you can talk about the books. The reason you don't use the same password across a bunch of different apps is because if you do use that same password, when they hack into or they breach Target and they get your email address and your password that you use there, they are going to try that password on that email service. They're going to try to log into your email using that same password. And if you were using the same one, now they have the bank, right? They got everything. They can reset all your other passwords to that email, and they've got, pretty much everything that you have. You don't want to give them that option. And again, that's why 1Password and these password tools will help you have a different password for every single thing you go to, and you don't have to sit there and think what it's going to be. Sarah, what do you think about the password book?
Well, I think the password book, if the book is kept in a secure place, is generally, is generally pretty safe because it's it's not online. So there's not the vulnerability of it being online. But
Somebody has to be in your house to get it.
but I would also say that a password book is more time intensive.
Oh yeah.
So
Well,
it's so if you have a password book, you have to go through the book and for each location that you're
find it.
trying to in and find it and type it
And I think
and
one
so
of the time wasters is, what am I going to use for my password that's different than all these other passwords in my password book for this new site? And a lot of people use patterns. Patterns can be found out. The pattern method is no longer good.
right,
So
right, right. And yeah, I mean that's another part of it is you can there's a pattern method and it's not randomly generated usually. So I you but a password book, if you're in a pinch, like let's say you're migrating from one password service to another password service, at that point, it makes sense to use a password book while you're while you're migrating from one to the other. If you decide that you're not going to use one, like you move from one password to Nord or Proton or something else. And sometimes, it's okay if you're doing something temporary, but it's still better than using the same password, as you said, across the board. So, and you have to look at, security as layered. It's zero trust. There's nothing 100%. So is it perfect? No. Is it absolutely abhorrent? No.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to make fun of you for having a password book. Definitely not.
Yeah. I wouldn't make fun of anybody for a password book. No.
Right, exactly. I might make fun of you if I find out that your password is password123 and you use the same one across everything.
Or my
All
dog's
right.
name.
Or yeah, right. Okay, so how to make a super secure password using dice. Now, to be quite honest, I'm going to tell you, I would rather use 1Password or one of these password apps than using dice. But apparently, it's a secure method.
Right.
Should I play it, Sarah?
You can't. Yeah.
Okay.
It's amazing how much a computer password can unlock. It's like the open sesame to your entire life. But some passwords, like Open Sesame, are a little too simple, which means thieves can guess them. Most of us now know not to use the most familiar passwords out there. And most of us know you can add symbols or numbers to make them harder to guess. The trouble is, attackers don't just guess passwords, they use computer programs to guess passwords for them. And they can guess millions of passwords a second. The truth is that as humans, we're too predictable, even when we're trying not to be. Inventing a truly random password takes a non-human mind. So, how do you choose a super random password without the help of a robot that you'll actually be able to remember? Get an ordinary 6-sided die and search for Diceware word list on the web. The Diceware word list has 7,776 words on it. Throw your die 5 times and write down each number you get side by side. So if you throw a 4, a 3, a 5, a 1, and a 6, you get the number 43516. Look up the word next to the number 43516, Nico, and that's the first word in your new random password.
Okay.
Do this 5
You
more
can
times
stop.
until you have 6 words. That's your password.
So yeah, so this, I mean, does actually give a good overview on how to do it. But again, like the password book, this becomes really time intensive.
Mhm.
So
And
if
then,
you're
yeah, you still have to save it somewhere. So you're
right,
creating it.
right,
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
so
Yeah, if you're using a password book, maybe this is what you want to use to create your passwords in the password book. But again, these password managers make things a lot nicer. All right. And I just want to bring up, Sarah has another tool for that dice one she shared with us, and that is that there's an automated password generator, so you can use the robot and the dice method at the same time,
right.
right?
And yes, but I have
Mhm.
not. I haven't actually tested this one out, but there's a whole bunch of them online
Mhm.
that you could theoretically use for doing this. I do think though that, if you're going to do this, it just makes sense to go ahead and use a password keeper that randomly makes one for you anyways, because you're already using something that is automated.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
it is an option. It is an option.
No, oh yeah, I agree. Okay, so multi-factor authentication. So when we talk about multi-factor authentication, most time we're talking about it's going to, they're going to text you something, or maybe you have an authenticator app, and there's, Google, and there's OAuth, and there's a bunch of these apps where you read the QR code on the page, you get this a number, so that anytime you log in the future, it asks for that authentication number. You have to go to your phone. Only one phone can have the authentication app on it at a time, and then you find out what that code number is to help verify that it's you. There's also things like YubiKey. So I'm going to throw that onto the stage. Sarah, what are you using?
Yeah, I use an authenticator app, and I also will use a well, it depends what service. So a lot of my services I use an authenticator app, and then some I'll use like an SMS or a code that goes with
Some of
it.
them don't give you the option for authenticator. You have to use SMS.
Right, exactly. I prefer my authenticator app. So I'm using TOTAP right now, TOTP. The problem that I have with the Yubico, which I had one, and then I also had a Google key, is you can
And
lose
these are
them.
little dongles.
Yeah, they're small and you can lose them.
Oh,
But
yeah.
but for some people they work. So and they are
Some
very
organizations, they hand them out to their employees, so that you have to use it to get into the organization's network.
right.
So it's,
Well,
it's
at that point I wouldn't lose it, but
right.
yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah. Okay. So multi-factor authentication is one way that when if somebody breaches your, one of your services, they breach, the car parts place, even if they have your password, they still can't get in because they don't have your phone with the authentication app, or they don't have your phone to get the text message, or they don't have this YubiKey.
Right.
So that is what multi-factor authentication is, and we do think that you should use it whenever it's offered.
With with AI and quantum computing and all that kind of stuff, I mean it's really important to have 2FA, because I mean it's just going to become much more automated to be able to crack passwords. I mean, it's already super automated, but it's just going to get more and more automated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Now we talked about password managers, and we talked about two-factor authentication. Let's talk about some of these privacy services that are going to help you get your information offline. And we're going to start by the one that the guy in the video suggested, and we're going to give you his link for that too, so he can make a little bit of commission if anybody decides to use that. I think it also gives you a coupon, and that's Aura.
Yeah. His URL gave you a free trial.
Oh, a free trial. Okay, yeah. So we'll make sure his URL is there. I think that it forwarded to something else. Anyway, I have used Aura before. I think they're great. I think there's a whole bunch of good ones though. So we're going to go through a few of them. I use Delete Me. And Sarah, I think you do that as well, right? But I have used Aura. I have used Incogni.
I have Delete Me right now. I think Delete Me is good because Aura's great, but it's mostly automated, and there's nothing wrong with automated. But Delete Me also has a human component, or a stronger human component that goes with the automation. So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone. With my Nord account, I also have some protection with that as well. But then you have to look at, which one would do coverage first. It's kind of like having two, medical insurance policies. But I do think it's very important, if you can afford it, to have identity theft protection and to have one of these Privacy Protect services. The Privacy Protect services oftentimes will come with the identity theft protection, in addition to taking a lot of your stuff offline. you can't always get it 100% offline, but it at least gives some level of risk mitigation, which is better than no mitigation.
Exactly. I think there's one that most people know about just because they were advertising pretty heavily when they first started. And they still pretty much, I think there's still quite a few ads out there, and that's LifeLock.
Mhm.
So that's another, actually, this is more affinity theft protection, I think. Let me double check where I'm at on this list. Yeah. So it's, but it can be purchased in a package with Norton antivirus and all that kind of stuff. So, Sarah, I know that we're not there on the list yet, but give me your spiel on, can LifeLock help in an OSINT investigation? So that was a question we got. We have a office hours meeting on Fridays where we have anybody who's in our premium channels can come in and talk to us and help us formulate ideas for what we're going to talk about in the next week. And we have the question, well, if you're an OSINT investigator, law enforcement, corporate, whatever, can LifeLock help in your investigation? And Sarah, what's your point of view on that?
Well, my point of view on that is that LifeLock really isn't intended to assist with those investigations. It's intended more to protect somebody's identity. However, from a red teaming perspective, being able to understand how LifeLock works can help you figure out how to theoretically look at how to reverse engineer some of the things that LifeLock would protect, or to see what somebody who doesn't have LifeLock hasn't protected. Or that doesn't have another identity protection service. So I think that and the other thing is to see the categories of what it has, what it covers, because that would show you where somebody might have vulnerabilities if they don't have protection. So I guess from a red teaming perspective, it can kind of be helpful, as could any of the other platforms, but it's really not intended that way. And it's a lot more broad with its descriptions because they don't want to give out too much of their secret sauce, and they don't want to give out too many vulnerabilities. So it's more of a, I'd say, a very broad spectrum kind of these are broad vulnerabilities you could look out versus specificities.
Yeah, and I'm not going to go through every single one. We'll have a lot of links for you in the show notes as far as these. I'm going to show one more, and that is going to be the Nord Protect. And I want to talk about why I tried Aura and Incogni and Delete Me altogether at the same time was because I actually gave them as a gift to family, not this year, but last year at Christmas. And the idea that I had was that one, it's going to help my family by they're going to be able to like lock down their privacy a little bit, but also usually when you think about it, do an investigation. If your person's not talking, if you can't get anything from them, you can get things from the people around them. So theoretically, if I have a privacy setup and I gift everybody around me a privacy setup and they use it, then I'm even more protected original. And then maybe they can gift out and their family members can use it and then they're more protected as well. That doesn't really work like this because you find people who just never sign up, even though you gave them a very nice, expensive account as a gift. You can lead a horse to water, right?
Right.
Sarah, you had an idea about gift cards.
Yes. So with gift cards, when we're talking about, skimming and identity theft and people getting your credit cards, one of the things that you can do is like, let's say you have a kid in college or somebody who is a senior citizen who has a favorite store, or just anybody, is when you give an unattributable gift card to their favorite place, then they're not using their credit card. And so that helps protect their identity.
Details are with it.
Right, no personal details. So it's kind of like, when you go to like in the United States, we have the luxury of being able to go into a Walmart and to be able to buy a SIM card with cash and a throwaway phone. Whereas like if you were, in the EU, you can't do that because the SIM card would be tied to your identity. So that same concept applies to these gift cards, because the gift card is not in any way, especially if you pay for cash for the gift card, it's not linked to anybody. And so that's a great gift to give to somebody to help protect their privacy as well.
Absolutely. Okay, one last thing on this before we get to our slop, and that is when a data breach happens, when do you get notified? I mean, you can go look yourself and have it been pwned, right? But when do they notify you? And this is going to be different all around the world. I have this one right now from Prey Project. I love Prey Project. This is an oldie but a goodie as far as a company. They protect your devices. So something to look into. Love them. But this is an article about the notification laws in they do a little bit of global, but they really get into state by state. So every 39 seconds, a cyber attack occurs worldwide, blah, blah, blah. What are the data breach notification laws? And this is how quick these companies have to let you know that they lost your data. All right, so we're just going to scroll down here toward the bottom. GDPR leading the global charge. So they have mandatory data breach notification to regulators within 72 hours. All right, so the regulators need to know within 72 hours if they've had a breach. In California, let's see what this says for this. I think they're not adjusting really the when to report, but they give consumers control over their personal data, including the right to know, delete, and opt out of data sales. And this is what gives you the opportunity to opt out of sending your personal data to apps on your iPhone or your Google phone, because California enabled that, and they can't guarantee that you're not really a Californian. When you add an app to your phone and it says, it wants to track you, you can ask the app not to track. That is this law. So that's kind of interesting. Canada, Australia, but then as we go through here, global trends to watch, breach notifications, and then we go into the timeline state by state. Okay, so here we go for the California one. Without unreasonable delay. All right, I don't know how you can figure that one out. Same thing with New York. Texas has 60 days within breach discovery. Florida has 30. There's some that go as far as 90, I think. So Alabama has 45. The rest of them are kind of being a little bit without unreasonable delay or the most expedient time possible. There we go, Connecticut, 90 days. So you can find out like how quickly you should be notified if there's a breach in anything from a company from any of these states. Most of the time when we're notified of a breach of like some online thing, it's not necessarily our state that they're located in. They're located somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. Well, it's time, and so we are going to talk about our slop. We got some slop of the week. All right.
Cabin window read 40 degrees below zero, and it was still dropping. In the 5 years he'd lived in this remote corner of Alaska, he'd never seen the temperature fall so low. The approaching storm system wasn't just another winter challenge. It was the kind that made even the most hardened wilderness dwellers question their choices.
So this video is 23 minutes long, but you can tell it's an AI generated just from the voice in this case.
Right.
But
I can
it's a story. Yeah, summarize the story.
So the summary is that the grizzly bear and its cubs are freezing. So he lets the grizzly bear and the cubs in the house. And this was like a big thing in 2025 is letting bears in the house. So there was polar bears, grizzly bears, brown bears, black bears,
AI
bears. And then it transcended to leopards and tigers and lions and Sasquatch and yeah. So this was definitely a 2025 trend of letting these predatory animals in your house as AI slop. And it was interesting when you looked at the comments on some of the slop that had this, because some of the people actually took it seriously.
Mm-hmm. Well,
which
here's
is
the thing. In the middle of winter, a grizzly bear and their cubs are hibernating.
This is true. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, thank you so much. Thanks to everyone. And we'll see you next week. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.